we've got myself presenting, but I've also got a special guest for us, Laura, who is over here.
I'm a busy mum of two. I've got two girls, aged 5 and 7.
Run us through some of the things you've achieved with me in the last year.
I guess I've lost probably the most amount of sort of weight, body fat, I guess. I've sort of learnt to sort of realise the difference between sort of weight and body fat. I've got in much better shape, fitter, stronger, competed in high rock. So yeah, have achieved a lot actually.
But it was with a different name on the Zoom screen. Do you remember what that name was?
Yeah, God. Gladys or something, yeah.
Since working with me, like, how has it benefited just like your social life, private life? Like, has it benefited it, would you say?
Yeah, well, I think you've probably helped me more than you will ever kind of realise, you know, sort of last year going through all the kind of work stress, you know, you've given me a lot of purpose in a time when I didn't have that.
So, welcome to episode 8 of the Lean Life podcast. So, it's the last one of the series, which is sad times, but we've got myself presenting, but I've also got a special guest for us, Laura, who is over here.
Hello.
Laura, this is exciting. So, for those of you who don't know Laura, let me do a little bit of introduction in a second, but Laura has been a client of us for the last year. I'm going to let her talk about herself a little bit more. So, Laura, would you mind telling people at home a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Laura. I'm a busy mum of two. I've got two girls, aged 5 and 7. I work full-time in HR up in London, so I sort of split my time between commuting up to London for a couple of days and then the rest of the time at home. I am in my early 40s, which I wouldn't normally sort of introduce myself and, you know, state my age, but I think probably quite relevant for the podcast in terms of how easy or difficult it is to lose weight at sort of different stages of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. And Laura is, would you say a little bit nervous today, Laura?
Just a little bit. It's a bit strange being sort of on this side of, these sorts of things.
Absolutely. And it's out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's safe to say over the last year, maybe you've been out of your comfort zone more than once.
Yeah. So you've definitely pushed me, a lot out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
So before we go into like you sort of, because I want to go into your like backstory, Laura, like how you got to end up working me, you know, what you tried before, where it got you, how you feel now versus how you felt 2 years ago, and so on and so forth. But before we do, just you've achieved a lot over the last year, okay? So let's start it off really positive, okay? Run us through some of the things you've achieved with me in the last year.
Yeah. So I guess I've lost probably the most amount of sort of weight, body fat, I guess. I've sort of learnt to sort of realise the difference between sort of weight and body fat. I've got in much better shape, got fitter, stronger. I competed in high rocks earlier this year, which is something that I never thought I would be sort of fit and strong enough to do. So yeah, have achieved a lot actually when you sort of think about it.
Absolutely. And not only that, you're stepping out your comfort zone, coming on the podcast, doing public speaking.
Yeah.
Which is something that you would never have thought you'd do a year ago.
Definitely. I'm much happier behind the scenes rather than sort of in front of the camera, for sure.
But it's good. It's good. And also, there was also enough. We did a photo shoot, didn't we?
Yes, that's right.
2 months ago now?
Yes, which is something I never thought I would do, yeah.
And those are big life-changing moments.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. When you
Packed a lot in.
When you think back, isn't it? It's like, wow, how have I done that?
Yeah. It's got to push yourself out your comfort zone. Just do it.
Absolutely, and I'm going to circle back to those towards the end as well because we're going to go in depth in those as well. But Laura, just for those watching and listening as well, okay? Because we work primarily with women, 40 plus tend to be the age range we work with, and there's a lot of struggles they face. You know, perimenopause, time, kids. You know, no time for the social life, let alone to lose fat. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with it, and they usually get to a point where they feel like quite miserable by the time they come to us. Yeah. So would you mind running through sort of where you were before working with us and how you actually ended up working with us in the first place?
Yeah. So I think it was probably just over a year ago that I came to you initially. At that point in my life, it was a very difficult year for me last year. At that point, I was sort of the biggest in terms of weight-wise I've been in a long time. I was just really struggling since having children, really, to sort of keep the weight off. You know, life just gets so crazy busy when you're sort of juggling children, work, everything, and sort of prioritising time and committing to, working out and focusing on fitness. Just, it falls to the bottom of the pile, doesn't it? I think there's a lot of people in my position will be in the same situation. You put everyone else first, and you sort of then don't prioritise yourself. And my health was really suffering as well. I actually had sinusitis for like 4 or 5 months last year. It was just, really like, not a very nice time. Nothing was working. I couldn't get rid of it. I just felt, rubbish the whole time. I just felt really lethargic, had no energy. And I was just sort of surviving through the days, really. I probably wasn't the nicest of people to be around at the time. I think my husband will agree to that. I was just a bit grouchy. I was really unhappy with, how I looked. When I looked in the mirror, I was just really unhappy with my size, and the fact that I was just really unfit and out of shape. And so that was going on. And then I also had quite a lot of stress at work. My company decided to do a big organisational restructure in the summer last year, where loads of people were made redundant. All the departments were restructuring. I actually didn't know for several months if I had a job or not. I was kind of in this really weird limbo phase of not being confirmed in a role, but also not being put at risk of redundancy. I was just sort of waiting, which put a lot of stress, on top of, everything, when I was already kind of, feeling at quite a low point. And I just sort of woke up one day and was like, right, I think I'd sort of hit a bit of a breaking point, just sort of woke up one day and thought, right, something's got to change. I can't control my work situation. That's just going to happen. Whatever happens is going to happen. But I can control how I feel about it, how it impacts me and sort of how I respond to that. And so I was like, right, I need to sort out my health and fitness, and I can focus on myself. So, that brought me to you. And I sort of was thinking, right, well, what now? What do I do? I want to kind of make a bit of a change, but what do I do? And I was chatting to a friend of mine, one of my sort of fellow school mums.
Oh, nice.
And she'd been working with you.
Yes.
And had sort of got some good results. But not only has she got good results, I could also see a change in her in terms of, her sort of commitment to sort of, to herself and to working out, the consistency. And I was like, right, well, she's a busy mum. I'm a busy mum, let's sort of give it a go. And so it brought me to you, and I'd sort of heard your name in and around the area anyway. You were a PT at the gym I go to, so I knew that you were sort of legitimate and qualified and reputable.
It's true.
You'd also trained when you were a PT a couple of people that I knew as well, so I knew that you were legitimate.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll just have a call and see what happens.
Yeah.
And see how you could maybe sort of help me.
Absolutely, and I still remember, Laura, I'm going to bring it up, so sorry if it embarrasses you, but I do remember on that very first call, so we did it on Zoom, I do all my calls on Zoom. I was like, right, talking to Laura. So I got Laura in my head, wrote down Laura on my notes page, because otherwise I'll forget names are terrible. And then you came on the call, great, but it was with a different name on the Zoom screen. Do you remember what that name was?
Yeah, God. Gladys or something. Yeah, during sort of the end of lockdown, organised a murder mystery Zoom party for my husband's birthday. And we had to put in we were obviously all given characters and would dress up. And I think that must have been the character name, but
Amazing. It's still my favourite call to date, Laura. So I was like, and then, I remember you told me as well, I was like, and you were like, oh, this is really awkward. I said, no, this is great.
Yeah, I was really embarrassed.
It's an icebreaker.
Yeah, Gladys.
There's nothing worse than, hi, how are you? Yes, I'm good. And then you're like, kids running around and stuff. You're like, this is a much better call.
Yeah. I think my kids were running around in the background. I think you got a good taster to what my sort of mum life was. I think, they were coming in begging for snacks and
that's fine.
Just pretty standard.
But it just shows as well, so people are busy, you're busy, but look where you've still got amazing results because you found something that worked for you.
Yeah.
But let's just dive into your backstory a bit, because we've sort of just touched the surface, if that's okay.
Yeah, cool.
So you said last year you got to a point sort of where you felt like you were the biggest that you'd ever been. So talk me through how you got to that point.
Yeah. So, well, if we sort of go right back, I'd always been quite a slim and active child and teenager. And then went to university, and I think that's probably where it started to spiral a bit out of control. Well, because suddenly you're sort of fending for yourself. I was having to cook for myself every day, go shopping for food, And, you're sort of balancing studying and, having to then cook. And, I could also eat what I wanted as well. There was like no restrictions. So it wasn't my mum and dad sort of, cooking my food and telling me what to eat and what not to eat.
Yeah.
I could go to the supermarket and just, choose whatever I wanted. And obviously when you're a student, you don't have a lot of money. So, you're having to buy cheaper food and probably not the best quality, and a lot of ready meals, a lot of fast food, convenience food. You're busy. So then, I wasn't really exercising. I didn't really know how to at that sort of age. And obviously then there's a bit of a drinking culture as well, socialising, enjoying, and then obviously then with that you then start eating more. And so the weight just sort of slowly crept on, really. You don't sort of wake up one day and, suddenly you put on loads of weight. It's just, it just creeps on and on and on. And then sort of through my 20s, I guess that's when I sort of started sort of yo-yo dieting, really, binging and restricting, kind of up and down. I started exercising, but it was very cardio focused. I think probably growing up in like the 90s, it was very like workout videos and step classes and and like the early 2000s. I just remember, going to aerobics classes and, I'd feel, you'd sort of do an hour of aerobics and be exhausted. And then I think to myself, I've earned like my chocolate bar, or I've earned going out for a meal or whatever. So I don't think, it was just a vicious cycle. I dabbled a little bit with Weight Watchers and Slimming World, and, you sort of get a little bit of result, but then it just doesn't sort of, it's not consistent. And so I kind of, sort of yo-yoed up and down. I had quite some success losing weight and getting in shape with a PT just before my wedding, actually.
Oh, nice.
She sort of, I guess, introduced me more to the nutrition side of things, and macros and a bit of strength. I guess that was my first sort of introduction to strength training.
Nice.
But I was sort of seeing the PT kind of 2, sometimes 3 times a week, which obviously is quite expensive. But that sort of started giving me a bit of the accountability and a focus on kind of nutrition. But then I sort of got married, had children, and sort of from there just really struggled to kind of lose weight, really, and get into a good routine, when you've got children, busy life, going back to work. After my second baby, my youngest daughter, I was sort of almost looking forward to going back to work to get back into a routine. And I thought, right, when I go back to work, that's when I'll be able to focus on, my kind of, workout and nutrition and everything. So I'll be in a good routine then. And that was in sort of January of 2020. Okay. And then we went into lockdown.
Bloody hell, yes. Yes,
so I'd been back at work for about a month.
Oh, bloody hell.
And then we went into lockdown, and then it just, my whole kind of vision of, getting into a good routine and just sort of went out the window, really. And then the weights just sort of started to then creep on sort of during COVID. I think a lot of people, COVID for them was, the time that they found fitness or, had a major revelation. But for me, it was just, and probably a lot of people as well, it was just about survival. Yeah. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Both my husband and I were still working. We weren't furloughed. We had kind of obviously, couldn't get help from, outside the family because obviously of the restrictions. Cool. So, it was just sort of survival. So my kind of, sort of visions of getting back into fitness kind of went out the window, really. And we were just sort of cooking a lot of convenience food, I think. Well, certainly for my husband and I, obviously we made sure the kids eat well, but for us, then we were so tired all the time, and so the weight just sort of crept on, really. And and then obviously it brought me to sort of last year, and now's the time. I've got to do something about it. I'm in my early 40s now. If I don't, it's sort of now or never.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't believe you're in your early 40s. You look about 25 to me, Laura. And I forget how far you've come as well, because I knew you were unhappy, but I didn't know how unhappy you were. So we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. But so you said in your early 20s you went into that's when you sort of dabbled with the fad diets and stuff as well. What attracted you to them in the first place?
Yeah, I think having a bit of structure, I think, probably is what attracted me to it. And obviously you see the amazing transformations as well. that some people have. And I think I just felt like I needed some structure, I needed a plan, and that, sort of those sort of, diet companies, that's sort of what they give you, really, isn't it? And the community as well, because you meet other people.
Yeah.
But it just, for me, it was sort of, you'd go to the meeting, you'd have your weigh in, and then that would be it for a week. And, if you didn't really, you'd sort of have I'd then have a couple of days of, thinking, right, I'm going to, be really good, stick to my calorie limit, whatever it was at the time. And, and then you'd sort of, life would get in the way, things would crop up, and, you'd sort of fall off the wagon. So,
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. When you say, like, you'd fall off the wagon, what do you mean by that? Because that can mean so many things so many different things for different people, right? What did it mean for you falling off the wagon?
Yeah, so I guess that's just, you're sort of binge eating, or not, not exercising. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that nutrition is almost more important than sort of exercising and fitness side of things.
100%.
Certainly for weight loss.
Yeah,
anyway.
100%.
And so for me, I sort of almost had it the other way round. So for me, it was like exercise is more important.
Yeah.
If I exercise, I can almost eat what I want to eat.
Yeah, I get you.
And for me, the two sort of had to go hand in hand. And so then if I would miss a couple of like workouts, then I would think, oh, well, I'll just eat what I want now. I'll start again next week. I've ruined it. If I'm not exercising, then I'm not burning the calories. So, whereas now I think I kind of really see that actually, the nutrition side of it is so important.
Yeah. Absolutely, but like also, and what I also try to teach everyone I work with as well, including you, Laura, as well, is that if you do have a day where like you've gone off the wagon, which like to me, if you have a Maccadees, you haven't gone off the wagon, you've just had a bit of a life, right? That's fine, you can do that. But where the fad diet promote you, like, if you do this, you're an evil person. If you do this, you failed. If you go to your like Weight Watchers or Slim World weigh-in and you've gained weight, even though it'll be a fluctuation of water, 9 times out of 10, or muscle gain, which is really good, we want that. Why haven't you lost weight? Yeah. They don't offer the solution or reason behind it because they're unqualified. Yeah. Generally, they've just lost weight themselves, they've been asked if they want to be a member, be a leader, and they have, and they don't know themselves. Yeah. So what I've definitely tried to teach you, and what we have taught you as well, is that if you go out for a meal out and you go slightly over calories, it's not the end of the world because there's strategies we can use to rein it back in. Yeah. But also, you've got to have a life as well, You're in your early 40s, Laura. You're going to live at least another 60 years, at least, maybe longer, Yeah, we'll see. You want to live a happy life as well. You don't just want to, yes, looking good's great, and you look amazing, by the way, and you will still look amazing with what we've taught you, but there's more to life as well. Yeah. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to go out for dinner.
Definitely. And that is something that I have learned, where, I sort of look at things from a kind of weekly, monthly perspective rather than just kind of daily, and I think, well, okay, if I'm going to go out for a meal, then, I just make, some nice adjustments sort of elsewhere. Yeah. And it's not the end of the world. I might go over my calories or whatever, but, it's, as long as I don't then continue it for the next few days and just get straight back into my sort of routine, then it's all good. It's
literally fun.
Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard.
It is hard.
Well, when you've grown up with such diet culture,
of course,
and it is hard. It's a mindset change, definitely.
Absolutely. And when we talk about like, the diet culture, so would I be right in saying so from like your early 20s until basically last year, you were stuck in that diet culture almost what 19, 20 years, give or take. And
also, I think last year I sort of got myself in this mindset of this is just the way I am. This is just, I've got to accept, that, this is my body. I've had 2 children. I can't possibly get into good shape because, I've had 2 children. Cool. And, I've almost got to accept that this is how I am. And, which, was, looking back now is just crazy. And, I thought, and I didn't want to accept that that's, how I was. I wanted to be fitter and healthier and stronger and all of those things.
Absolutely. Like, what brought you to almost having that thought process of like, this is who I am now. It's too late. Was there any specific reason as to why you thought that?
I think just because had been so hard to prioritise time and, the sort of almost the mental energy that was sort of needed to sort of, sort my kind of, whole nutrition. It all just seemed really overwhelming. Okay, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that you've really helped with. You've, really taken all that overwhelm away. Like I would go, to the gym and, I'd turn up at the gym and I'd be like, right, okay, what am I going to do today? And then I'd have this little bit of a panic of like, what machines are free? Which machine should I use? And I had no knowledge of like which exercise exercises to pair together for the best results. And, and I would end up going on just the machines that I was used to. So it would be like the cross trainer, the running machine. I might do some free weights, but that would be it. And it would just all seem really overwhelming. So definitely that's something that you've really helped, being able to just give me that structure and plan all my workouts for me so I don't have to think about it. I literally just turn up to the gym, open up the app, and it's all in there.
Absolutely.
I just tick it off and, and then I just get on with it. So I don't have to think about it, which is, I think what's really helped.
Absolutely. And like you said as well, you are a busy person. You're a very busy person. You work full time in a very stressful job. You have 2 children. Like, just to dispel anyone watching, go like, oh, you've got loads of free time. Like, how much time do you reckon you have a day to actually yourself?
Yeah. Well, more now, though, because I have come to realise that I have to prioritise the time for my own mental health. Definitely, I need to, have some time to myself. But, I mean, I don't go to the gym loads. I'll go maybe a couple of times at the weekend, just because then that's easier with, because my husband's at home as well with the children. And then I'll try and go maybe once or twice during the week. But it's also not just about, for me anyway now, not just about going to the gym, just generally I'm more active, which is something, I was not active at all beforehand. I would literally drive everywhere. Like if I could drive somewhere, I would drive somewhere. I would never really walk anywhere. Okay. Whereas now I sort of walk everywhere I can walk.
Of course.
I walk.
Yeah.
And so that's become a much bigger part of my life now. And, if I can't get to the gym one day, then I'll just try and get out for a walk instead. And, and I live around quite a lot of hills.
Yes,
so
you do. Yeah.
a walk can be quite, can be quite a workout.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's become, just more part of my life now. It's just being more active in general, which then is easier. I then don't think, oh God, I can't go to the gym, I've ruined it. So, I think, okay, no, what can I do? But I can go out for a walk. Yeah. I can maybe do a little home workout at home. I can do something to keep me sort of focused. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've had a mindset shift, Laura, as well.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's one of the biggest things, isn't it? Just sort of changing your whole attitude towards it.
So let's go this way as well. So talk me through what you were doing in your early 20s in terms of like, what your day routine looked like in terms of like water, steps, exercise, nutrition, right, versus now. And what would you say has been the one big takeaway for you?
Yeah, good question. So my early 20s, I probably didn't drink hardly any water, really. It would be coffee and tea and, that would... and my daily routine was just sort of going to work, socialising. I had no sort of children at that point, so it was just sort of, quite, I lived in London as well for a few years. So it was sort of that kind of work hard, play hard lifestyle for a while, just, in terms of socialising, going out for dinners, meeting friends for dinner, after work. I would... And then that's when I guess the yo-yo dieting and yo-yo exercising, if that's a term, it would be like, I'd be really focused for a couple of weeks, and then life would just get in the way, and I wouldn't. Yeah. Whereas now, I think for me, realising that it's the simple things like the drinking water, the just getting out and getting your steps in. And I think the water, drinking more water has helped generally with, just having more energy.
Of course. Yeah.
I think this time last year, or just before I started with you, I just had zero energy and just felt really lethargic, really bloated all the time. And I think, obviously, drinking water has been kind of a bit of a revelation, really. Yeah.
It's mental, isn't it? And what would you say, like, so in terms of the biggest thing you could say, right, that you would tell your friend down the road to do if they were struggling? They were like, I'm really struggling. You could give them one tip. Like, what would be the biggest tip or biggest takeaway you've learned from me so far that you tell someone?
Gosh, there's actually been there's loads of takeaways. I think go back to basics. I think really, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think for me, definitely has been the biggest thing. I think when I started with you, we sort of stripped it right back. Yeah. Just focused on like water, steps, nutrition. Maybe I think we probably started with one workout, maybe 1 or 2 workouts a week to begin with, and then just built it up from there. So I think just not putting loads of pressure on yourself. Starting back to basics. For me, and obviously busy lifestyle planning, I have, now I sort of plan out what I'm going to eat for the week.
Yeah.
Put it into my fitness pal even like a day or two in advance. Obviously I don't always do that, and I don't always do these things, but I do notice that when I do plan things in advance, then life is a lot easier, and it's easier to prioritize, and like workouts, trying to plan when I'm going to go to the gym, and putting it in my calendar so that I know, and then I can plan the rest of my day around it. That's I guess that those things have massively helped.
Absolutely. And would you say at any point with me that you've been starved?
Well, no. And I think that for me, learning that, I can eat more calories than I sort of ever thought I could. I think historically I had this big thing about 1,200 calories, and to lose weight, you had to eat 1,200. I mean, I have no idea where
Horrendous.
1,200 calories came from. But, I talk to my friends and they're the same. But like 1,200 calories, that's just the standard. No matter what shape or size you were, 1,200 seemed to be this like magical number. But 1,200 calories is nothing, and so it's no wonder that I struggled. Realizing that eating more, which is hard to get your head around, eating more,
scary,
and eating the right things. Obviously picking foods that are going to fill me up versus foods that aren't. So learning more about nutrition. That's for me that was kind of one of the biggest things I learned.
Absolutely, because I still remember, everyone does this to me as well, every single client I take on, but I remember you in particular, Laura, when I gave you like your nutrition goals and everything as well at the start, they were quite high, which is they're supposed to be because it's sustainable.
Yeah.
I do remember you asked me like, are you sure this is right? And in my head I'm thinking like, because obviously I know there's a fear factor. In my head, obviously, I have the sarcastic element in my head that's going like, oh, I should just type back going, nope, I'm just trying to fuck you over. But obviously, it's because it's scary, because of this 1,200 calorie number. And you're not the only one. Notice that my clients come to me with this magical number in their heads. One lady started literally 2 weeks ago, she's lost like 9 pounds in 2 weeks, which is amazing. She's like on 2,100 calories. She's like, are you sure? I said, yes. But it's that thing, isn't it, of actually, look, you could have 1,200 calories and you could lose a lot of weight really, really quickly, but you're not going to be able to sustain it, and you're going to have what I call the fuck it moment, where you snap, something stressful happens, and you have a chocolate bar, and because you've restricted yourself so much, your brain is hardwired to want more of it. It's like a drug, right? It's like a drug. Oh my God, I've had this thing I can never have again. You feel guilty, so like, fuck it, I've blown it, I'm going to have all of it now.
Yeah.
And then you can never get back into the swing of things.
No.
So would you say, since working with me, you've still eaten nice food?
Yeah. I mean, I've had to make a few adjustments, but I don't ever really feel like I've been on a diet as such. I've just adapted the foods that I liked, made it work for me. Like my husband and I, we love to have pizza on a Friday night, but instead of having like a Domino's takeaway or a Chicago town pizza, I would just have a slightly healthier version, or try and like make one with some flatbread and then I still feel like I'm getting that pizza feeling,
absolutely,
but without all the kind of added calories, and then how how I feel about the next day. You sort of feel bloated, and I've never really felt like I've been restricted, which was quite surprising for me at definitely at the start.
Amazing. And so in terms of like your results as well, Laura, do you know I know them if not, do you know off the top of the head what results you've got so far?
What, in terms of the numbers?
With like your waist to hip and your weight.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've lost probably nearly about 10 kilos, just under. Measurements, I couldn't tell you the measurement number, but it's more kind of how I feel in my clothes, actually dropping dress sizes, feeling better in my clothes, looking in the mirror and feeling better, feeling more confident, happier in myself. More active. I think, initially my goals when I started out was, very kind of probably similar to a lot of people in my position, wanting to lose weight, get a bit more toned, I think, just get a bit stronger. Whereas now, as soon as I started sort of getting results, it then for me then sort of turned more into, well, I actually want to get stronger. I want to lift, heavier weights. I want to be able to run around with my children. And also be a positive role model for them as well. I've got 2 girls. I'm very conscious that, they're obviously absorbing, whatever's going on around them. And, I don't want them to see, mummy constantly on a diet,
No, of course,
restricting,
no. Horrendous.
restricting her food because I want them to grow up with a healthy mindset around food. So I'm very conscious at home that we try and talk about being strong.
Yeah.
And they'll sometimes come in and they'll see me taking my progress photos on like a Sunday morning or like measuring myself. And, I have to really think about how I kind of frame it to them.
Of course.
I'm around, this is about mummy getting stronger.
Yes.
And, we're going to see how much muscle mummy's put on.
100%.
And how much stronger mummy's getting, because I obviously want them to, grow up with a positive, attitude and mindset around things.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, so we've gone through our fat loss phase. We're actually now in a muscle building phase, aren't we, Laura?
Yes, which is not something I ever thought. I ever thought I would hear myself, be doing. I think you sort of say, "Oh, I want to be slim and toned," but I guess toned, you do have to, it is muscle. You are building muscle, but it's just such a, like females don't build muscle, but So it's quite a, but I want to be stronger and fitter, and so I guess I sort of have to.
Yeah, and we're not talking bulk muscle. So some people be like, "Oh, fuck that, we're not talking bulk muscle."
Yeah,
like
God
lean,
no.
Lean muscle.
Yeah,
okay?
lean muscle. I definitely don't want to be bulk muscle.
But actually, I know that and it's a good reason as well, that there's been a bit of like a mental struggle around this as well, because the calories have gone up, and you even said to me the other day, you notice you've got some positive things I'll let you talk about in a second, like more energy, so on and so forth. But of course, with muscle and fat weight, the same with muscle's more dense, small appearance, right? So while you look visually better, your weight is going up.
Yeah.
Which I pre-warned you.
Yeah.
But talk me through how you're finding that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's that hard to get your head around because I think we do grow up so focused on the numbers on the scale, and obviously the lower the better. So yes, the numbers have gone up a little bit, and has been hard, and that goes hand in hand with obviously you've upped my calories as well, and that's hard as well because you're so conditioned to sort of eating a certain amount, and it's sort of then when you sort of think about higher calories, it messes with my brain. But and so it is an adjustment, and I'm trusting you and I'm trusting the process. I have full faith that you know what you're talking about, and what you say makes sense.
Of course.
It does, scientifically it makes sense, and but it's just hard to, it's just an adjustment, definitely.
Absolutely. And so I did something quite sneaky, didn't I, on Monday on your check-in, where I showed you at the same weight you are now, what you were back in November versus now. And there was a big difference, even at the same weight.
That was interesting, and I really needed that to kind of see that actually at the same weight my body shape can look different. Because you do just fixate on the numbers. So that was a good motivation boost. Okay, I was like, okay, all right, it's clicking. Yeah. He does know what he's talking about. It's not just not just upping my calories.
For fun.
For fun.
Fuck it, why not?
And I'm feeling much, stronger and I have more energy in the gym. So I have noticed that I can, lift slightly heavier weights because obviously I have more energy. So it does all make sense. It's just, obviously it's a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. Nope. It does take time. And obviously, being the age that I am, metabolism and things like that, it is more difficult to build muscle as you get older, I think. So.
Absolutely. So you're saying you're getting strong as well, Laura, and I know you're getting stronger, but tell everyone at home, you are so much stronger. Are you noticing any particular exercise you're stronger in? Are you noticing how you're feeling better because of it? Talk me through it.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing exercises that I never thought I would have done previously. I would never, go to the gym and use like the squat rack or the Smith machine, for instance, or, hip thrusts with the Olympic bar, So I'm doing sort of those sorts of exercises, which I never would have done before. And obviously, slowly, going higher and higher with the weights, and and that for me is really motivating. And I feel like it's great to be able to get for the weights to be going up and to be sort of almost feeling like I can lift heavier weights.
Absolutely. And are you noticing that you have more energy as well on higher amounts of food?
Yeah, definitely. And that's obviously what's helps in the gym to then be able to obviously push a bit harder with the weights. Yeah.
Absolutely. And would you say, like, since working with me, like, how has it benefited just like your social life, private life? Like, has it benefited it, would you say?
Yeah, well, I think you've probably helped me more than you will ever kind of realise. You know, sort of last year going through all the kind of work stress. You know, you've given me a lot of purpose in a time when I didn't have that. You know, it was, it was sort of it was just really tough. And yeah, and you sort of helped give me structure, give me purpose, and something to focus on. And yeah, so yeah.
It's mental, isn't it? It's mental.
It's crazy
it's mental.
when you think about it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, like, I can tell how much more confident you are, because even when we were speaking on Zoom like a year and a bit ago, you were very nervous, and I could tell you got to a point where you just thought, I've just fucking had enough.
Yeah, definitely. And I am definitely way more confident now. I feel better about myself. I'm definitely happier. At home, I'm much more present with the children. We go out and do things a lot more. Whereas last year, I just got myself into a real cloud of, I feel really miserable. I then don't want to do anything. I don't want to plan, amazing days out with the children because, it was just, you kind of get yourself into this horrible misery
in your head almost, aren't you, every day?
Exactly. Whereas now, sort of getting out and being active is a much bigger part of our life. So at the weekends, with the children, going out for walks, just building that as part of our lifestyle. Kind of family life, basically. Yeah. I think I'm just much happier and much more enjoying time, as a family and with the children. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a stat as well. So there's something mad. Like if kids see their parents exercise when they're younger and have a healthy lifestyle, they're 70% more likely to continue it themselves, because that's almost all they've known.
Yeah,
Whereas,
wow.
of course, if your kids see you going because some women in particular don't like exercise, and I get why. And I was a little bit the same when I was younger as well, because you always have one arsehole PE teacher who makes you think that exercise is running around a field until you're sick, because they hate their jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
Even with me, run around the field. Why am I doing it? Because I told you to. It's like, I don't want to run on the field. And then I would feel sick. I'd be sick, and they'd be like, well, that's good. It's like, no, you should never exercise to the point where you're sick. That's horrendous.
No.
But when your children see you doing these things, they're 70% more likely to continue it themselves. So you're not only making yourself a better view, but you are, like you said, you're being a positive role model for them, but they won't see anything other than a healthy lifestyle now because of what you've done, Laura.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Me growing up, I grew up with a lot of sort of limiting beliefs around sport and exercise. Really? I was active in terms of, as a family, we were reasonably active, but I was never the sporty child.
Really?
And at school, I was, never the first to be picked in the PE lessons, and so you just sort of get this mindset that I'm not sporty, and I sort of did more sort of music or things like that rather than kind of sport activities. Okay. But I really want my children to grow up with sport as part of their life, or just sort of being more active as part of their lifestyle. So that's an interesting stat, isn't it?
It is, and there's also it's a bit better now, but it's still not as great as it should be. There is, especially when you were going, Laura, as well, it's only recently been a real inclusion of more females into sport, or more girls into sport. Like before, you could do mixed football up until 9, then the girls, there was no girl football teams really.
Yeah.
Or any sport. And it's slightly better now, but it's still not where it should be. So there is also a factor that it is harder for women and for young girls to get into sport in the first place, which is wrong and should be changed.
Yeah.
But it is slowly becoming better. So, like you said, the self-limiting beliefs, because there's almost this misconception that males should be exercising sporty and then women should be slim.
Yeah.
But that's like a misconception from the bloody 1970s.
Yeah.
That's not how life works anymore.
No, exactly. And like you say, I think it is getting better.
Yeah.
And I hope, by the time my children get to secondary school, that they, it's a lot more inclusive and also to try out new things. Yeah. I think when I was at school, it was just very traditional sports.
Oh, okay.
Whereas now there's, so much more choice of sports that children can be doing. So.
Absolutely. And talk me through. So you've achieved so much. I want to talk about some of your achievements as well, Laura, because look, you've when you look back at even your photos, when you started a year ago, or even let's say when you show me that photo when you were in your 20s, right? And you look at photos of you now, what do you think?
It's crazy. I can't. You almost look back at photos and I don't believe that was me. But I think it's, you know, how I looked, but also how I felt as well. It's crazy.
Crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, and it's what is amazing is you've inspired loads of people that you don't even realise that you don't even know that to sign up, but also so many of your friends the last month have got in touch with me and are now part of our community as well, because you have an inspiration not only to your kids but to other women who have gone through and are going through the same struggles. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing, Laura.
And I guess, you know, I saw other people in my position, you know, getting results and, you know, and making positive changes. And I sort of think, well, if they, you know, if they're busy mums as well, you know, so if they can do it, you know, I can at least try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so in the last year as well, let's talk through High Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
What made you want to do a High Rocks, and talk me through the whole process and talk me through you smashing High Rocks? Let's go through the whole thing.
Yeah, so I needed a challenge, and sort of historically I'd done a lot of running. So I did the London Marathon in 2013.
Amazing.
Not the best time, but I made it round, so that was the main thing.
It's an achievement.
And I've done a few half marathons, and I think I just wanted something a bit different, a different focus, a different type of goal, something to keep me focused, because I was conscious at the point I was in with my sort of training and, you know, weight loss and everything. I felt like I just needed a goal to keep me focused, particularly through the winter as well. So I think I signed up in November to do it in May. So I thought, right, that's going to keep me focused during the winter months when, you know, perhaps I don't want to go out and do any exercise. And I actually quite like the style of training, the sort of hybrid fitness, the mixture of cardio and strength training. It sort of, you know, that's sort of the sort of training that I like.
Nice, yeah, okay.
It was sort of the training that we were doing, you know, you were setting me in my workouts anyway. So I thought, this is a bit different. It's going to push me to try different exercises, obviously things like the sled and stuff like that I'd never really used before. So I thought, well, this is going to at least, you know, give something different to try. A different challenge, interesting. I thought I can do, do different workouts, and it just will keep things interesting. It's bloody hard though.
It is, absolutely,
I just sort of, it was a bit impulsive as well when I signed up. I was like, that looks good. I'll just, And I think I messaged you and said, oh, Clayton, do you reckon I can do it? And you were like, oh, 100%, we'll get you ready for it. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And there's a lot of pressure as well. Like there's a lot of hype around High Rocks now.
Yes, there is.
And obviously getting tickets is quite difficult. So I think I've just got, you know, if I'm going to do it, I've just got, you know, I saw that there were tickets available. So I was like, right, I'm just going to have to do it. So, so I then was like, right, okay, I'll just do it then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm still into. I've instilled into you and all my clients as well. Like, I always think with life, what's the worst that can happen? That's why I even got into online coaching in the first place. Like, you know where I worked. I won't mention it. You know where I worked. I was miserable there for 8 years. I couldn't afford my bills. I just left one day and I asked myself, what's the worst that can happen? Now, the worst that can happen for me is to compare a mortgage and live on the street. But I was like, fuck it. But like with you as well, I think I even said to you, like, what's the worst that can happen? Worst that happens, you do it and you're not amazing at it, but you improve for next time.
Yeah.
But if you can go in life like with almost a fuck it attitude, like with certain things, obviously not with your job you have to try hard with, right? But like, what's the worst that can happen? Fuck it, let's give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. So I just signed up and did it. I thought, well, Clayton, you can take care of all the training. I don't have to think about that. I was like, it's your fault then if I can't do it.
100%.
I'm joking. But and you did. You set me, you know, a really good sort of progressively more difficult plan. I remember at the beginning with the plan, I'm thinking, am I doing enough now? Like, you know, but you were building me up slowly, which was really good because I think if I'd gone in at a massive, you know, high intensity straight away, it just would be really tough. And if I was setting myself a plan to get ready for High Rocks, I would have done it in a completely different way. And I probably would have burnt out like halfway through. So I think the way that you structured it, was brilliant. And I just, you know, I knew what I needed to do. You kind of did, you set me kind of a variety of different exercises and workouts so that it never got boring. And obviously it just progressively got more difficult and more intense sort of as the kind of weeks and months went on.
Absolutely. And we also gave you, do you remember the deload weeks, Laura?
Oh, yes.
They're so important.
Yes.
I'll go through it in a second, it might be sports science, but I remember when I gave you your first one, you're like, what?
Yeah,
deload,
a week
Laura.
of not much training.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I'm still eating a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
How does life work?
Yeah.
And it's because with everyone, but I'm going to go, so with High Rocks, I'm going to go more into like the athlete terminology, okay? Because like it or not, you enter that bracket, you do High Rocks, all right? Not to sound twatty, not to make you sound twatty, but that's what we go into, okay? So it's more sport-specific training, which is so different to just training Debster down the road. I actually do have a client called Debster, so sorry, Debbie. Anyway, with any like physical performance goal, okay, you think of it here, right? We need to give you a certain amount of pain to get an illicit response, right? So the response goes up and up, okay? But after usually 4 to 6 weeks, the response stops. You feel more tired, you feel lethargic, you can't sleep as well, and you release more cortisol, which will actually make you gain weight. Water weight, but will make you gain weight and make you crave more shit food to make you feel better, because you release the same endorphins in the exercise as when you eat chocolate, right? So what you have to do is you get to this point where you get stuck. You've got two options. You try and blast the fuck through it, and then you fall off a cliff because you think, fuck this, I'm not making improvement, I'm getting weaker, I feel tired. Like, you're going into your sessions like pissed off, which I used to do all the time. Bad, you go into overtraining, all right? So you have to give yourself a deload week, which then has a slight regression for a week, but then you can shoot past this plateau, if you like. And that's what you should be doing every 4 to 6 weeks. So if you think, the first plateau's here, in week 12, the next plateau's here. But even though you've gone down slightly, you're still way above where you were. So that's why we do it.
Yeah, and I can see the science and it makes sense. But I remember at the time thinking, really?
What the fuck?
But actually, I could feel that the intensity, and I think my body really appreciated having some time out. But particularly as it got closer, I'm thinking, no, I need to be going full steam ahead. And I think that's where, if I was doing it on my own, I would have burned out or got injured. Or just got really fed up with it. I think, having that time off, and it wasn't completely off because I was still doing some sort of level of activity. But it really, really helped. Yeah, I'm surprised, I sort of look back and think, God, how did I not come away with any injuries? But it's all down to the planning.
Absolutely. And talk me through like how you felt on the day, because I was there. I saw you.
Yeah,
talk me through how you felt on the day.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
The day was just a bit of a blur. I was nervous to begin with. Obviously you get the pre-race nerves. I think everyone probably gets that for anything that they're doing. But I just loved it. I really loved it. I think the adrenaline kicks in. And I did a better time than I thought I would do. Obviously, I had really no expectations, having not done anything like this before. And actually, for me, it was less about the actual time that I did it in, and more just actually completing it. I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to, do it all. And and then you sort of have the wall balls at the end, which just completely takes everything out of you.
It does.
And so I was just really, really happy that I'd managed to get round and complete it without completely collapsing.
And you're doing it again, aren't you, this year, I believe?
Yes, bitten by the bug of High Rocks now.
Nice.
But also I want to see, obviously I learned a lot during that period of like training and obviously then on the day realising where I was stronger and where I can, where I was kind of which of the like workout stations I was weaker at, where I can make improvements. So so I'd like to do it again to sort of compare,
beat yourself.
See if I can do a better time. But actually I just really enjoy the style of training. So actually it's it's just a fun way of working out.
Absolutely. And when we do it this time, Laura, when you do it this time afterwards, I'll arrange like all the clients to come up and watch you. We'll go have drinks afterwards.
God, no pressure.
Go have some drinks afterwards.
They don't have to, honestly, you don't have to.
Because Pete's also doing it as well, bless him.
Oh, so amazing. Yeah.
But, so coming into this one as well, do you have a time target you want to hit?
Well, just under the time I did it in.
Yeah, which was, believe, 1 hour 29, was
1:38.
1:38.
1:38. And I thought I'd be closer to 2 hours.
Did you?
Just because the sheer amount of running that's involved and, the running and then going into the stations. And I just thought I would definitely be slower and lose time. I also thought I'd get more penalties. You obviously get time penalties if you don't complete exercises, enough of... and I know at one point with the sled pull, I tried to exit before I'd done the right amount of laps of like pulls, and and then I was like convinced that I was going to get a time penalty for that. But luckily, because they made me, they sort of stopped me from exiting. They were like, you can't exit this way.
Yeah.
You obviously haven't done enough laps, so go back. And then I was like, oh God, how many have I done? I don't know how many I've done. And obviously if you do too many, they give you a penalty.
Yeah.
Luckily I managed to get away with it. So I really thought that I would have picked up penalties. Obviously there's certain things, if you don't, do a burpee in the right way, then
penalty.
If you step forward, you get a penalty. Obviously, on your wall balls, if you don't squat low enough, they just make you they don't give you a penalty, but they make you redo them
for
until.
God's sake.
So I really thought there were so many places where I either would have lost time
Yeah.
or got a penalty. So I was expecting it to be a lot been a lot longer than it did take me.
I reckon you can do it 1 hour 20 easily.
We'll see. That's only 20 minutes.
You weren't even tired. Like you finished and you were still talking quite happy. I was like,
Yeah, I think that was adrenaline. But also I was so conscious of just pacing myself throughout, not burning out.
Yeah.
Because I knew I had, to do 75 wall balls right at the end. Which was, for me, the wall balls and the sled pull were probably the hardest exercises.
Yeah.
So I was conscious of pacing myself that, probably I maybe conserved a bit more energy than I needed to. But, I definitely felt it afterwards, though, and the next day. So.
Oh, bless you. And then you finished High Rocks. It was your birthday, I believe, the day after. Was it your birthday the day after?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, little birthday treat for myself.
Absolutely. Which, why not? And then after, I believe, right or wrong, 2 weeks later was the photo shoot.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that was
later,
a crazy month. Yeah.
How did you feel at the photo shoot?
Yeah. So the photo shoot was something that I never thought that I would be something that I would ever entertain doing. But it was so good to just sort of see the difference, with my before photos versus obviously the photo shoot. And obviously there's sort of specific prep that you do for it.
Yeah.
And that was, I almost, to a certain extent, enjoyed that because it was a different focus.
Of course.
And something different to, different focus, different way of training. It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was nerve-wracking because it's not something, again, it was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I don't really like being in front of the camera.
Of course.
So for me, that was a tough day, but really enjoyable. Really enjoyed it. Loved looking at the photos and seeing the sort of the progression.
Absolutely.
Because I think it was for 10 months or so. Yeah, almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year.
So there was some good progress from where I was
100%.
before.
100%. And I've got you on camera as well, Laura. Then and here as well, which is amazing. Getting used to it now.
I need to have a break now. Don't ask me to do anything else.
So before we finish up as well, Laura, let's just go one last question, all right? Before you started with me, because obviously you online coaching is a relatively new thing, right? I know the benefits of it, but it's quite hard to convey that to someone who's used to PT and that's almost all they know. Would you say you had any hesitations before working with me, or even when you started working with me, were there any hesitations at the start?
I think to begin with, I was a bit like, how is this going to work? And it's sort of getting into the mindset of, not having someone with me when I was working out and telling me what to do. But I'd sort of got to the point where I knew that I didn't need someone to stand over me in the gym and sort of watch me working out. I just needed someone to tell me what to do, show me, and obviously there's videos and demonstrations in the app, so I could sort of look at how to do something, and then just get on and do it. So I didn't need someone standing over me. So I thought, well, if I can sort of redirect the money I would spend on a PT in a different way, then maybe it would work. But I was because I think online coaching at the time was a relatively new thing, and sort of telling my husband that I was going to do this, he was just like, okay, so but you're not, it's not personal training. I was like, no, it's coaching. So Clayton will set everything for me, and then I'll just get on and do it, and he'll check in with me, and so I didn't have massive reservations. I was just a bit curious as to how it would work and whether it would work.
Of course.
because obviously you try loads of things in the past and not everything works, and for me this really has. I think you've given me structure, the accountability, checking in during the week, making sure at those moments where potentially I might have sort of had a bit of a weak moment. Usually you're there, you've already messaged me to kind of stop that from happening. So it's so I mean I certainly don't have any reservations now, and for anyone that's thinking about sort of doing online coaching or doing online coaching with you, I would just say go for it. It's completely changed my life in so many ways.
Wow, that was amazing. Do I want to ask you another question? Yeah, I'll ask you another question. So let's go. Someone's at home now watching, right, thinking, this has been amazing, but I just want something else that I can just go in action today. What would you say is the easiest thing someone could go in action out of either like nutrition, water, steps, exercise? What's the one thing they could do that you think, in your opinion, is the easiest they could just go and do today?
Yeah, good question. I would say get out and do some steps. Just being a bit more active part of your daily life, and it doesn't have to be, and certainly something that I've learned, I don't have to go out for an hour's run to have achieved some activity for the day. It could just be going out, putting a podcast on for a 10-20 minute walk, and actually that's quite often what I'll do. I sort of love putting my podcasts on, getting out for a walk, having a bit of time to myself. So I think just get out and do some sort of activity.
100%. And it's amazing, Laura. Like you said, you're in your 40s, you've got children, you're the fittest you've ever been and the strongest you've ever been, but you know that you're never going to go back to where you were.
Yeah.
It's sustainable.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle change, which sounds really cheesy.
No, not at all. It's what
but
it is.
And like when you think back to, to sort of failures and diet failures in the past, it is a lifestyle change and just changing your mindset and
Yeah, 100%. Laura, thank you so much for that. It was amazing. So this is the final episode of season 1 of the Lean Life podcast. We'll be back early next year. In the meantime, there's loads of episodes you to watch. Have a fantastic day and thank you for listening. Woo!